Come on in here. Let's gather around, have ourselves a little conversation, shall we? I'm Jeff. That is Ira. And Corey today, he's in Chicago vacationing with his family. So I hope he's having fun in good old Chi-Town. I like Chicago. I've seen the pictures so far. It looks like they're having a good time. And you guys are joining us via 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. So if you're watching on Warchant TV, make sure you like and subscribe as always. All right, boys, we've got a lot to catch up on. We had the press conference yesterday with Link Jarrett. We've got the news today of the scheduling partners for the next 4 years for Florida State out of the ACC. I think we're going to want to begin with that. Obviously, next hour, we'll get the headliner questions, of course, as there's been an ample response to your call, Ira, that everybody jump on board. This hour brought to you by Register Sausage, as always. Yay, sausage! Take it away, Ira.
So, here's a couple things about the registers. One is we've got the promo code going. Ben stepped up in a big way once he heard about Link. Look, man, there could not be a more natural connection. The last guy we meet was okay, but Link is a promo code for Register Sausage is the way to go. So I think it's 22% off if you order your Register Sausage from registermeats.com. It's 22% off and free delivery. And I think he launched the promo code on Friday when Link Jarrett was hired as the head baseball coach, and I think it'll go till this Friday, so it runs for a week. Get your Register Sausage. Man, they got a cornucopia of varieties. We at the Schofel State, we were just having some of the jalapeno cheddar, which is delicious, and can't recommend it enough. And the other thing I want to mention real quick before you guys share any of your sausage love stories, I was talking to Ben a little bit, and I was like, man, okay, so we're taking over the Southeast. Like, what's the next step? And he just said, man, he just wanted me to remind some friends, I'm here to remind you, if you go to your local grocery store, if you go to your local Publix, and especially in the Southeast, and if they don't carry a registered sausage, you need to let them know because they often will respond to those requests. So if you hear us talking about registered sausage, if you go up and down your aisles and you don't want to order it from the website and you don't see it, just politely, no violence, no threats, no screaming. Just politely say, hey, I would like some registered sausage to taste what the guys have been talking about. And that would help him out because then those people will pass those requests up the line.
Well, now that Ira's done talking, I can share more of my sausage love for everybody else out there and get that out there. Yeah. So what I would tell you is if you're listening to this here program, Seminole Headlines, that is, and say you're in, I don't know, Syracuse, New York, and you desperately would love some sausage. Tell the folks, get out there and let people know you need some sausage. Register sausage.
Maybe when you're on a Florida State road trip to Syracuse,
perhaps.
Which is going to be happening quite frequently now.
Yeah, it's such a natural rivalry. It's going to be so much fun. It'll be great. Hey, so it is. We'll get to that momentarily. Tom is filling in for Corey. I should make mention of that. He can wave to everybody. We're doing that. Again, we're all in our respective abodes for now. I don't want to get those guys sick. I'm at the end of this. I feel good. I was doing push-ups this morning before they were even awake. I'm kidding. But I am feeling better. I am up and moving about. And so things are well. We'll be back in studio, I do believe, tomorrow. I have exorcised the demons, COVID, and I feel better. That's good.
Yeah, and something for folks on Warchant TV who are excited about an in-studio show. You can get even more excited because tomorrow at 1:30 on the
Is that when we're doing it?
Link Jarrett will be on the program. Yep. Thanks, Florida.
Well, that's good news.
That happened, so that's very good. Thanks, Ira, too, for setting it up.
By the way, Ira, I think now I pointed this out to Tom after the press conference, and I loved the tenor of that press conference. I loved his demeanor. I loved the deliberate nature with which he spoke. I liked the way that he carefully thought through what it was he wanted to say, and I liked that he's a man that does not mince words. I like that he's a man that does not use filler excessively. So we're going to have a guy that's succinct, and that's good. But that doesn't always make for great interviews. Luckily, I know a lot of people that are friends with Link, of course. He's from here. I know his former coaches. I know many people that he played with. I've got to find an anecdote somewhere out there to make him smile tomorrow because it wasn't a smile yesterday. And my goal on the JCS interview for tomorrow is to at least get him to crack a smile at some point. I mean, he's coaching his alma mater. He's coaching the place that he made his name. He's coaching the place from which he's from. I'd like to see him smile a little bit.
That's got to be a weird, like a balance, right? Because, you get the job and the excitement, like you said, he grew up here. He's wanted this job for a long time. He even mentioned growing up, he thought about, hey, maybe one day I could be Florida State's head baseball coach. So this has been something, the emotions are so high, but at the same time, I think he also has great respect for what it means. And so that's a big part of it too. Like, you don't want to come in. Look, there was a football coach that was hired here a few years ago that did a whole lot of smiling and was on top of the world. And we were excited. People were excited because he was excited. Hey, look how happy he is to be Florida State's head football coach. And then the games happen. So I think that's got to be a tough balance for especially anybody that he's not coming here as a mercenary, to your point. It's not like this is an emotionless job where he's just coming in to do a job. It means a lot to him. I just don't know when he's going to feel comfortable showing that.
Yeah, I think he also, like you're pointing out here, he wanted to show the proper measure of respect for the people that preceded him and the people that influenced him. He also, I think, is probably naturally intense. Obviously, he's got a focus to him that I really, really do embrace, and I think players will too. And yeah, Garrett, you're right. That's kind of what I was alluding to there when I set that up, talking to Ira about Link, is that he thinks before he speaks. Yes, he's very careful. Words mean things. We have a lot of people in positions of power who frequently say things that mean nothing. So it's nice and refreshing.
He also probably, the other delicate balance was the Martin situation.
Correct.
So that's part of that as well. He called Mike Martin Sr. the greatest coach of college baseball history, and how revered and how much meant to play for him. He called Mike Martin Jr. one of his closest friends from his playing days, and now he's taking one of their jobs and taking basically, and the father has to watch somebody else take his son's job. So that part of it had to be delicate too.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important there is I think he was sending a message, Ira, not only to the people that were in attendance, but any money people, any boosters. There will be no snide remarks about the previous regime. Like he was drawing a line there that says, look, if you want to rip on things and what wasn't working before, don't do that with me, because that Mike Martin Jr. was a friend, was a roommate, and he will still remain a good friend. So I thought that was actually nicely done on his part. It was a passive warning that, hey, this may be my job, but I'm here to repair some things that are broken. But don't you be getting, familiar with me, because that's my friend that I'm replacing.
Yeah, and I think that's a very rare thing when you watch jobs and how the transfer of power occurs. Very rarely is it a case where the guy taking the place of the previous leader, in this case coach, are friends, knew each other, go way back to when they were in high school and even beyond. That's difficult. I'm sure even if they're not extremely close any longer, and I don't know that to be the case, but even if they're not, you still have those the binds that go back a long time ago, and certainly you want to be respectful of that. At the same time, you're embracing the opportunity of a lifetime and one you've always dreamt of, and so it would be hard not to be impossibly giddy. But I do like that he got to the heart of the matter regarding wanting to win a national championship. Everybody knows that's what's missing from the treasure case, if you will, the trophy case, and I think that the first thing he has to do, obviously, is kind of gauge that locker room. He sent messages yesterday from the dais about talking with them and others that will be coming in. I think probably, and I don't know if you took this away from it, seems to me that he's pretty impressed with the incoming players, that he's excited about some of the guys that have already committed to Florida State. We can be critical in the media, certainly, and fairly so, I think, of the job that Mike Martin Jr. did, but recruiting wasn't the issue.
No, and especially, I think Mike Metcalf was a great addition to the staff, and we don't know officially what his status will be going forward. Sounds like there's probably going to be a wholesale changes on the assistant staff, but I think Mike Metcalf had a ton of connections, was really good in terms of evaluating because his days as a scout with the Giants. So they were in with a lot of kids, and that's the thing. The tricky part of this with baseball recruiting is so much of it's done. We talk about how football recruiting is done in advance, or maybe basketball where it's a year or two. But baseball kids, man, they commit 4 years ago. Kids that are coming in now or next season committed 3, 4, 5 years ago. They're offering like 7th graders and 8th graders. So that process, it's not like you can just, hey, I'm a new coaching staff and I'm going to go find a bunch of new guys. He needs a lot of those kids to come in because, that's the bulk of their class.
Mark has contributed to our efforts here today, so we want to acknowledge you, Mark, and say thank you for that. A donation for cocktails for the three of us on the flights to Syracuse. Yeah, that's the other bit of news. It's an effortless transition, thanks to you, Mark, that we point to that Florida State is aligned with Clemson. Okay, that stands to reason. Miami. Okay, that too. You were never going to get rid of that. And Syracuse. So, I don't know what to say about that other than you want one of the lesser than schools to be the third in this party. Obviously, you don't want another elite level or potentially elite level program to be the team that you have to play as a standard opponent each of the following 4 years. You'd rather that be somebody like Syracuse. But, there's another middling program right down the road they could have chosen that I think a lot of people are wondering about right about now, and that would be Georgia Tech. Do we have any insight as to why the opponents were chosen the way that they were, and in this case specifically Syracuse, Ira?
Well, I think the big thing to remember is it's a conference, with 14 schools that they have to figure out how to make it work for everybody. So that's part of it. If Georgia Tech, for example, I think their other opponents are Clemson. Maybe Tom, if you get a chance, if you could pull it up.
We'll pull all these up.
But Georgia Tech, I think two of their opponents are also very good. So I think adding Florida State as their third might have been difficult. They may not have been thrilled about that. I also think, to your point, from Florida State's standpoint, you already play Florida non-conference every year. In the next decade, you're playing LSU 2 games, you're playing Alabama 2 games, you're playing Georgia 2 games. Do you really want 3 of your permanent games to be Clemson, Miami, and another really good team? So then it becomes, okay, so it's got to be somebody that's not as strong, and that limits it. And then, in the ACC, it doesn't limit it all that much. So Georgia Tech's got Clemson, Louisville, and Wake. I think Georgia Tech might not have been thrilled about Clemson, Louisville, and Florida State as their 3 permanents, although Wake Forest obviously has been really good. But so that's part of it. But I think the other thing is, from a standpoint of a lot of people would dismiss Georgia Tech as like, okay, that's an easy opponent. And it is right now. But of the 2, who would you think is more likely to be an easy opponent in any given year down the road? I think it is Syracuse. I think Georgia Tech, there's a chance Georgia Tech can get rolling much more than it could be Syracuse, just because of the population base and the talent in that area. So while it would be good to be able to go there, and I know the fans want it, I get that the fans want it, but I don't know that if I'm looking at it from a standpoint of I don't want to play another really difficult opponent for sure every year, I could see Syracuse being attractive. I know the fans don't like it, but I could see that being attractive from a school standpoint.
I think most people believe it should have been Duke, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse.
Is it 3?
It's the logical 3 for Florida State to face, and I think it's a travesty that we won't be facing Duke annually, along with perhaps Wake, well, not Wake, but long-term Georgia Tech and Syracuse. That would have been ideal. Or Boston College. I could see either way. They all make the same amount of sense.
But like Gene and I've had this argument. Gene thinks that Georgia Tech's no less of a challenge theoretically down the road than Syracuse is. I don't know, man. I think Georgia Tech could get good. I think George when George O'Leary was there, man, they were good. That was a tough game every year. When Paul Johnson was there, they got good. I mean, and playing that style of football, which was not fun to play. So, man, to me, if I want somebody I can beat every year, give me Syracuse. From this conference, give me Syracuse. They'd be number 1 on my list.
Duke would be number 1 on my list, but I agree. I agree
Duke
with
or
you.
Syracuse. Yeah.
Duke or Syracuse seems to be logical. Look, at the end of the day, you don't want to run from anybody. Florida State is already going to have a difficult schedule moving forward. We've already documented that. You're going to play Clemson. They're in your division. At the same time, well, there's no division, but you know what I mean. You're going to play Clemson because there's no way ESPN's not going to let you play Clemson. So you're going to have that, and that's the other part of this that I wanted to bring in here. How much influence did Disney have on this? I mean, you got to believe that they're looking at this as well as partners. Remember that conversation and talking point when you were at Amelia Island, right? Our partners at ESPN, Disney, they are going to have a say in this matter too, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. And yeah, there's no doubt that they do. And, here's the other part of it that none of us really can speak to authoritatively. We all laugh at the idea of the Syracuse television market, because how many people in New York are actually watching television, watching Syracuse football games? But I do know that that's still the idea of playing in New York is appealing to a lot of people at Florida State. And I don't know if that's the TV side talking, or if that's just Florida State feeling like at some point down the road that exposure would be good in the Northeast. I don't know. I'm not saying I believe in that, but I think that is something they consider. But I don't know. It could be from the TV side and how many, they got on these cable networks in the Northeast. Maybe they need to get Florida State on them more often. I don't know about that part of it.
Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Yeah, well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie.
Well, we keep you regular.
Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Let me tell you what T-Spark stands for. It stands for strength, commitment, teamwork, and heart. We don't ever quit until we've got nothing left to give. Our team is unstoppable. Want a guaranteed win? Call T-Spark Enterprises for your next roofing or construction project. We conquer all peaks. TSparkConstruction.com. License number CCC 1331204.
Hi, my name is Shannon Pash, and I'm the principal at Red Hills Academy. We will provide a challenging, rigorous curriculum. We will also work with our students to teach them how to set goals and then how to work to reach those goals. Red Hills Academy will offer the Spanish language every day. Relationships are really important to us, not just with our students, but with our families and the community. This benefits parents and students alike because parents get that involvement within the school. Easily apply online today at redhillsacademy.com.
This is Ken Wondergem, owner of Gem Mazda of Tallahassee. Since the new car supply shortage, it's common knowledge that your trade-in is worth $2,000 to $3,000 more. However, other manufacturers' dealers are adding $2,000 to $3,000 to the price of their new cars, so you end up losing your equity. At Gem Mazda of Tallahassee, you'll keep your equity, since we will not mark up the price of the new Mazda you want while still giving you more for your trade. And since we're not marking up our new car prices, our pre-sold list is growing by the day. Reserve your new Mazda today and discover Mazda's award-winning quality and the high level of service and care you'll receive at Gem Mazda, where there's no additional markup on any of our new luxury performance vehicles. Gem Mazda of Tallahassee, where we take our slogan seriously. No games, no gimmicks, just a gem of a deal. And no additional markups. Come see us soon, Capitol Circle Northwest, just up from West Tennessee Street, and always open at gemmazda.com.
If you buy too much, you waste money. If you come up short, you waste time. And if you don't have the right metal, you waste time and money. You got to spend wisely. MetalSupermarkets.com is your online source for metal with the deepest metal inventory. Just enter your dimensions and we'll cut the metal to your exact spec and deliver it to your home, business, or job site. MetalSupermarkets.com. Any metal cut to size and ready fast is just a few clicks away. MetalSupermarkets.com.
DQ presents a burger and blizzard meal matchup. Today's matchup is Bryce Harper's new DQ meal with flamethrower signature stacked burger, fries, and a cookie dough blizzard versus Tim Anderson's new DQ meal with a bacon 2-cheese deluxe signature stacked burger, fries, and an Oreo blizzard. Who picks the winner? That's you. Visit DQ.com to cast your vote for which meal should be the official meal of MLB. But first, try them both today. DQ. Happy tastes good.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Should make mention that there are some other aspects to the scheduling situation that we should clarify. And I want to ask you specifically, Ira. I know you were there at the meetings over there at Amelia Island. And I wonder, I'm just going to pick your brain here. When this was discussed, was this a situation where we're going to revisit it in a few years, 4 years, 5 years? I had read somewhere along the way, it's stuck in my brain now, that in 2025, I thought they were going to maybe revisit this to see if they wanted to change up the permanent teams on the schedule. I could be totally misreading that. I think I was on vacation at the time I read it. Am I anywhere close to right about that?
Yeah, you are. No, it's a 4-year deal. And so they put out the schedules actually today for the next 4 years, who everybody's going to have when they get their crossover opponents, those other 10 schools. And it goes from 2023 to 2026, those 4 years. And before it's up, obviously the year before, I think in 25, they will sit down again and say, okay, did this work or did it not work? If again, I understand where Florida State fans are coming from. It's still a lot better than it was. I mean, now you're going to get to play Georgia Tech and the other schools in the conference twice every 4 years. The way it's been right now, you don't play them for 7 years. And so, I mean, that we loved that pit trip when they joined the conference, and we haven't been able to go back. That is going to be changed now. You'll be going within every 4 years. You'll be playing home and away with every single school in the conference. So I think there's no doubt this is a better format. They're only able to do it because now the NCAA doesn't require you to have divisions to play in a championship game. So now the ACC can have a championship game without divisions. So that's why they're doing it. But yeah, in the next few years, they'll be revisiting it and they could change it up. Miami and Clemson, we know are going to stay there forever because of TV, as you mentioned earlier. But that third game could change in a few years.
I want to make mention really quickly what Mike Alford had to say about this today in the press release. Quote, today's announcement is an important change for our conference for several reasons, with the primary being it allows the two best teams to meet in the championship game each season. The new format has advantages in many areas, including the positioning of our top teams should the college football playoff expand. Onward, he went and said that the new format means our season ticket holders will see every ACC team play in Doak Campbell Stadium over a 4-year period, to your point, Ira. So he was highlighting some of the aspects of this that are good for the fans and good for the student athletes who could have come here, played football, and never seen certain teams.
It's almost like, how do we ever accept this? The way it has been. And I know it felt like it had to be, it was tough because you had to have the divisions. But it's hard. Like, now you think about it, it's ludicrous that Florida State hasn't played, will go so many years between playing Georgia Tech or playing Pitt or playing some of these other teams.
It feels like we never played Virginia Tech ever.
Right.
We used to back in the day, but Virginia Tech, Florida State was kind of a burgeoning rivalry for a while. And then it's just like you never see them.
One thing I'd say, guys, is I'm looking at some of these schedules for other teams, and once again, Wake Forest is just always on the right side of whenever the ACC does anything. And I mean, I know that I probably spend more time hating on Wake Forest than most other Florida State fans, but their draw is Duke, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech. Are you kidding me? So I looked at their future opponents. In odd years, don't play them, Jeff, in gambling, because they will have to, in odd years, 23 and 25, play both Clemson and Florida State. But in the even years, assuming FSU is back on the rise by 2024, they don't have to play Clemson or Florida State, and they do get Duke, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech. So take the over on Wake Forest in 24 and 26, and take the under in 23 and 25. I've crunched the numbers on some of the other teams, but the other thing I looked at when reading this release and going to the ACC and looking at everybody's future opponents is I hope by 2025 this is completely moot, and we're in a new existence of college football, and this just gets us to some sort of changed system, a tiered system of college football. I'm hoping there is no news, Ira, in 2025 that there's an extension to this pathway. Right. It almost gave me a little bit of hope in a weird way that I don't think we're going to see the end of this little round robin 3-3-5 schedule, but maybe that's just the ever optimist in me.
Glenn's got the good comment that Sam Hartman's still going to be there in 2026. That's just awesome. But the thing about Wake, it's funny when we were at the ACC meetings, we were talking to Dave Clawson, Wake Forest, and we were talking about this scheduling and who the partners are going to be, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sure they're all lining up to get us." Kind of being facetious, like everybody wants to play Wake Forest, but heck, the reality is he beat a bunch of them, and so that part's always funny. Like we laugh about how Duke and Wake and Syracuse will be the three easiest teams, but Wake's actually they know what they are and they're pretty good, man. I'd rather play Syracuse than Wake Forest.
Oh,
Yeah, I agree with that. By the way, side note, NC State, who we think very highly of this year and who is unfortunately definitely on Florida State's schedule, has never won a division title. It's your last chance, boys. You sorry asses, never having won a single division title. Bunch of bums. This is it. You better win it this year, or else you got no shot to ever win one.
Yeah, and speaking of them, that's actually for Clemson. It's not the easiest draw either. Georgia Tech is one of their natural rivals, at least historically speaking, and they're right down the road. So they make sure that they honor that group that are right down the road from each other. But Clemson's third team is NC State. So if you're looking for, did Florida State get the short end of the stick? I don't know. Given what NC State is as a program right now, Clemson in the short term has a pretty difficult path as well. Miami's matchup with Virginia Tech is gone, which I found interesting.
Well, that bothered me right off the bat. Sorry, Tom. That was the very first thing I noticed besides anything not to do with us was that why? What is that? That's been a fun rivalry for the ACC. There ain't many of them. That's a good one. Why would you get rid of that?
I think that might be a sign that Dan Radakovich is a smooth operator. I think he might have made sure that wasn't. Look, I mean, the reality is, fans want the best matchups, and the schools want the best matchups to fill seats at their stadiums. But not everybody wants all the toughest opponents. So I could see a scenario where they weren't real thrilled about, there's a chance maybe Virginia Tech gets back to what they were. So I think there's a lot of moving pieces to this whole thing. And I just am glad. I just can't. It's like so hard to believe we had this schedule the way it was, where you just go years and years and years without playing teams in your conference. And I think the other thing Michael Alford said in that statement was that it should help the ACC because you'll have your two best teams playing in the conference championship game, not necessarily how many years the Coastal put nothing into the championship game. I mean, they put just cannon fodder out of the Coastal. So now you're going to get your true two best teams wherever they're from.
I should note that, by the way, that NC State isn't the only sorry sack of you-know-what to never win a division title. Syracuse never has either, and either has Louisville sorry ass. So they can all get some. They've never won one. They better win it this year, or that's it. You don't get a chance to. It's just a chance for me to take shots at people. I'm feeling froggy today. Just want everybody to know.
Just speaks to my case about keeping the orange, buddy. Keeping the orange. Give me the orange. I also have a good friend who lives up there, so I get to see him every couple of years. So I might not be unbiased. I wasn't as mad as everybody else about Syracuse.
Yeah, well,
I'm in agreement with Ira. I think if outside of Duke, you can't really draw up a better opponent to affix, and I think that's the freebie that the ACC gave to Florida State. Now I understand too if people are watching, they're like, well, be good enough to finish over 500 in the conference before you start talking about the ease of your schedule. Well, I get that. But, the goal here is to get better enough to where you start looking at a Syracuse game and you don't go, are we good enough to win it? Like, that's the goal here. And clearly that's what the ACC did in giving FSU the orange.
I want to give David Hale some credit. He noted that based on the conference records, W's and L's of the ACC title game over the last several years, the same matchup in 7 of the last 8 years in the ACC title game would have occurred. The only difference would have been 2016. Louisville, Virginia Tech would have been the only difference. That's it.
But theoretically the scheduling is more even now because you're not playing just Coastal teams. You might have one decent team in the Coastal that's beating a bunch of bad teams in the Coastal. I mean, you can't tell me that those two divisions were anything close to equitable over these last 15 years.
And at the end of the day, if we're being honest as Florida State fans, none of this would have mattered if we can't get off our ass and figure out a way to finish above 500. So here you go. It doesn't matter who you play. If you suck all the time, then you don't really have a say.
Yeah, my question would be, could they just start this year? Because given the way the Atlantic looks, could they just start this rotation this year? I think it would be more advantageous for FSU, given that they've got like 4 26-plus-year-old quarterbacks they're going against, and the Atlantic just seems to be, if you were doing ACC power rankings 1 through 5, the Atlantic's probably 4 of them, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, Florida State's playing a bunch of quarterbacks, balding, pot bellies, twice divorced, 2 kids. It's tough. It's tough out here. These guys are savvy. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment.
One of its K-9 units helped arrest a suspect who robbed a Circle K on Capitol Circle Northeast early Monday morning around 12:30 a.m. A nearby officer quickly found the suspect vehicle and tried to pull it over, but the suspect drove away at a high speed before stopping and bailing out at the vehicle in the 2700 block of Capitol Circle Northeast. A TBD K-9 unit responded to the area and tracked the suspect through a ravine. The department says a K-9 found the suspect hiding in the woods and he was arrested. Tristan Warren faces charges of robbery with a firearm and resisting officers without violence. One person was injured after a shooting took place at a lounge on Adams Street in Gadsden County. The Quincy Police Department says 2 individuals were arguing when one of the men pulled a weapon and opened fire. The shooter missed the person he was arguing with and a bystander was struck. She was taken to Tallahassee Memorial for treatment of non-life-threatening injuries and was later released. No arrests have been made, but investigators are following up on leads. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Mainly cloudy skies expected this afternoon with a chance for scattered storms. Highs level off around 92. Southeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance for scattered thunderstorms again tonight. Lows dip down to about 74. Mainly cloudy skies. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun tomorrow. Scattered thunderstorms likely. High temperatures reach up to 90. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 96.
Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Oh, hey there. I was just singing the praises of Crawfordville Auto and Tire. They do just about everything. Complete engine rebuilds, brakes, shocks, tires, oil change, you name it, they do it. And they offer a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. Most of the time, they can service your car the same day and offer towing to help you get to the shop. Now that's something to sing about. Open weekdays from 7:30 in the morning until 6 at night. Crawfordville Auto Repair and Tires.
Hey, Nole fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage! Seminole Headlines is brought to you by Register Sausage, serving the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. To find a store near you or to buy directly from Registers, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com.
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Seminole Headlines rolling on. River, good to be with you. Tom Lang filling in for Corey Clark, who's on vacation in Chicago. Ira is here. I am here. So that is the one exception. We've had moving parts on Seminole Headlines. It's the summer. It's the summertime. I was out of town and then got sick, and we've had the fill-ins. So this is the way it works. But soon enough, we'll be back in full strength for the core of us, and we'll be talking about heading off to Charlotte. I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be a lot on the table this year, boys, when we head to Charlotte. So much it weighs in the importance of this season for Florida State. There's been change now, obviously, to the way the conference does business. And I don't know, there's just a little pep in my step as we get set to enter July. I'm excited.
Not to switch gears on you, though, man. You guys had a full show yesterday, right? So you could talk about the Link Jarrett hire and all that. I haven't had that opportunity. Can we talk a little bit more Link Jarrett first? And then
Yeah. I wanted to get the schedule stuff out there first, but we've done that. Let's go ahead and talk about Link. What were your takeaways beyond the fact? And by the way, go to warchant.com. I know you wrote a piece on this. I'm excited about Link for obvious reasons. They got their guy. He was the obvious choice. They didn't waste time. They were very efficient. He said himself, Ira, that upon sitting down with FSU's brass, Mike Alford and the like, that he knew immediately what he was going to be doing, which means they didn't screw up the negotiation in any way, shape, or form, and they made it very easy for him to say yes. That's exciting. It is also decisive, and I think that they've got a guy who's in a good place to jump in and succeed right away.
Yeah, we were all, again, like it seemed like the natural fit for a few weeks. Obviously, when it turned out that Mike Martin Jr. was not going to be retained and he was going to be fired, that you look out there and it's like, okay, Link Jarrett's the obvious choice, but the big question everybody had was, could they get him? They didn't hire him 3 years ago, which you didn't know how he felt about that, how that process went, and then B, his star had certainly risen, and he was going to be an expensive proposition, and I think the pull to his family was a big thing, but I think really what's impressive is you see so many coaches just chase dollars. And whatever the biggest job for their career is, whatever the biggest job for their money is. But here's a guy who could have gone to, we believe, Clemson and got more money. We believe could have gone to Southern Cal and got more money. Other schools would have been interested if he went on the open market. And he was like, as soon as he was able to communicate when their season was over and Michael Alford reached out to him and they started talking, it was it. I mean, Florida State was the job he wanted, and they've given him a nice contract. It's a great contract, but he didn't just chase the dollars. This is a guy who wants to be here. And man, in this day of college athletics, I mean, you just don't see that. And so that's a cool part of it too.
By the way, really quick, either one of you guys, and we should all talk about this a little bit. He did reference the fact, in a very kind way, that the facilities have got to be better. I mean, it was a nice way of admitting, look, we've got work to do. This stadium ain't going to get it done to the level, the 5 things that he stressed. He talked about not only obviously being able to recruit and develop players and those kinds of things. He knows that facility, maintaining that facility, getting that place up to snuff. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I will translate some of the niceties into the direct point that he was making. Like, this is a dump. We got to do better. So I wonder how much will they pour into that stadium, and is the plan? It certainly, I took away from yesterday's presser that the plan is not to build a whole new stadium and relocate or anything like that. I think they're just going to put money into that stadium.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of his answers, though, because he played it politically pretty well, when Aslan asked him, what did you learn from Notre Dame and that experience that made you a better coach? And he went through the laundry list of how they practiced and how they're basically on an indoor practice facility football field that they've got to split with the softball program, and they've only got 2 hours to practice while the track team is running around them. It's like he paints a picture of Notre Dame's athletic situation that sounds like Notre Dame is an FCS school and not a high-level FBS school. I found that interesting. And I think the way he shared that information told me that he was looking forward to being able to share that information and vent a little bit. It was in a press conference setting, but I think the point that he was getting home and driving home was, look, we've been through worse in my tenure at other places where we've had less to work with. So I think he's trying to dance that fine line, which is absolutely Hauser needs a whole remodel, but it won't be an excuse for not winning because he was able to get to the College World Series and win in a way in South Bend that they never had, where in some situations he had to complete scrimmages in batting cages. Like, what the hell is that? So I think he's playing it both ways, but there's no doubt that had to have been some part of the discussion and the negotiation before he said yes to Florida State.
Yeah, that took me back to the discussions we were having on Seminole Headlines, Ira, where we were talking about, we thought Link was the obvious choice, of course, because of his connections, but we also thought it wouldn't be as difficult to get him as a lot of this fan base thought, because the perception of Notre Dame is that they have endless coffers, and they do. They just don't spend it on baseball, and they never have. And those facilities, having been to that campus, having been to that baseball stadium, having been around there, those facilities suck. And so that wasn't going to be a hindrance. It didn't seem to me, and it didn't turn out to be. But it doesn't mean you don't have to keep up with the Joneses, because you're going to now be recruiting against the SEC and the rest of the ACC. And frankly, almost to a team, every single program that Florida State will seek to out-recruit in the Southeast, SEC and ACC, almost every one of them have a better facility than Florida State. Almost everyone.
Yeah, but on top of that, and again, it's like Tom said, it felt like maybe Link wanted to get that out there, but I don't know, because he's been so complimentary of Notre Dame. He's been so good to them through this process, and feels like he owes a lot to them, because they did give him the opportunity to get on the big stage with his first big school as head coach. But I also think there are so many things that make that a tough job. And part of it's facilities, part of it's the weather. It's the reality. There's a reason Southern schools and Western schools win the College World Series, and you don't get a lot of Northern teams or Midwestern teams really making big runs in there. Part of it's they play. I mean, I think Notre Dame, the first 3 or 4 weeks of their schedule, they have to play on the road. They can't even play a home game. Their stadium, as he said, seats 1,800. So I think it's a balance when he's talking publicly. You don't want to be, if you're gonna preach to your players that excuses don't matter, get the job done, we don't ask why things, we just have to get the job done, then you can't then also be the coach who's constantly whining about what you don't have in terms of infrastructure and facilities. I think those conversations are held behind closed doors. So yeah, Jeff, I agree with you. I think there's no doubt he's gotten some assurances that there's a commitment there, but I also don't know that they needed that to make for Link. I mean, I think the fact that they went out and got Link Jarrett speaks to the commitment Florida State wants to make. I think Florida State is serious. This administration is serious about putting more money into athletics and then trying to make it up on the back end and not worrying about being fiscally conservative.
This is another piece of evidence towards that end, Ira. You're absolutely right. This is another reason that Florida State fans are beginning to allow themselves to dream again. We're getting out from under, Florida State is getting out from under the Willie Taggart money after this year. They know that. They're beginning to put money back in. I think they understand that you're going to have to spend to win. You're going to have to – now, listen, can you do it to the same degree as certain other schools? No, that's not going to happen. But you're also not completely strapped, is the point. And certainly the talking points, and rightfully so, when you had a stretch where you had 3 coaches in 4 years, you understood that they were up against it financially. And in fact, your interim athletic director was tasked with the responsibility of getting a hold of that situation financially. So now that you're coming out of that, it's just exciting to know that you're seeing evidence of it. Concrete evidence that they're spending money, that they're willing to give money towards things that they know will improve the product. Now, obviously, that the next big step is to do it with the moneymaker, which is football.
Yeah, one thing I'll be interested to see is, remember that rendering that they did, I think it was 3-4 years ago, when they showed that they were going to continue down the left field line and extend the grandstand, and then they were going to give an awning over the bleachers and right. And then there were going to be propped up seats somehow. I don't know. It's a very narrow area down the right field fence on the big wall. I wonder if they're going to return to something like that, or if Link has his own ideas of how to optimize the experience.
I think he does.
Oh,
I love the fact that he's like, they're like, oh, hey, we're redoing the field, and he's like, whoa, can you stop?
Yeah, let me.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's definitely an indicator that he has an idea of how he wants the underbelly of the stadium to work, certainly for the players' side of things. But I wonder if he's got ideas on the fan experience and how to best make the stadium look. But that was a project that I thought they were fundraising for and moving towards. It kind of, I think COVID killed it, unfortunately, the momentum for the financial stuff there. But I wonder if they're going to return to something like that or if it's going to be completely different. But I would imagine that some sort of announcement, I know they set up a hyperlink to a website for fundraising, but visual evidence and renderings, I wonder if that's going to be in the near future as well.
Yeah, the first fundraising campaign, actually, Tom, was to get the padding. And they got the padding, so Jeff's happy.
Woo!
Well, you remember I wore myself out many years ago with my personal efforts to get the scoreboard changed from pink to garnet. It had faded over the years. And so I waged a one-man campaign on the Jeff Cameron Show for about 2 years. And then one day, it brought a tear to my eye. I'll never forget, Eric Llewellyn took a picture of the fresh coat of paint going on the scoreboard, and I got a little weepy Felt very good about my efforts. And then you're right, Ira. They then several years later decided to put new padding in. So I really don't know that they need to do much else.
So they, from our standpoint, if they could just get a squeegee, to leave a squeegee in that stairwell, so that
I'll do it when we go over there to watch practice. I'll squeegee it up, guys. It's a safety hazard for us in the press. Many of us are past our prime. The sitting water is no good for anybody. The rust is sure to be an infection on an open wound soon enough.
So I would say to your question, Tom. I do think they are working on a plan. It's funny. Michael Alford pointed out that, in his desk when he became the AD, he found like 3 separate proposals like that. The one you mentioned from a few years ago, which was part of that $100 million campaign that they did, that there's been 3 different proposals / plans that just never have been executed for one reason or another. And so, that is their plan. I do think Link's going to be fully involved. I mean, I think, again, the impression I get from him is he's more of a CEO than he is just a baseball, like a ball coach. To me, like, there's different. Jimbo's a ball coach. Now, he wanted to like have input on big picture stuff, but he wasn't going to get specific. He would tell you if he didn't like it.
Oh yeah, he'll make you start over even, Ira, if you recall. Yeah.
but I think Link's the kind of guy. I think he's gonna. I don't know him. I've talked to him one time, but I think he's going to be more involved in that and make sure that they're doing what he wants. But I also think, when you look at their needs, I mean, it's top to bottom. That stadium there's parts of that stadium that people don't see, that they don't realize how bad they are underneath the stadium. They don't have like a dining area. The kids eat their meals at their lockers. I mean, there's so many parts to it that are not, and then compare it to, not even compare it to the best of the best, but just compare it to the other quality teams in college baseball. It has to get so much better. So I think there's going to be renderings soon. I think there's going to be an announcement soon for a campaign. And maybe because of all this excitement about Link Jarrett, people will step up.
Those ladders you can get, you see them on QVC, that famous footage of the guy falling off the QVC ladder, which is my favorite video ever, besides the grape lady falling. If you can get the ladder, I just want somebody to once a week maybe get one of those ladders and let's dust off the fans. Let's get some dust off those fans. I mean, that thing, that's like a nest for dead birds that has been sitting there for years. It's just like crazy. You can see the huge pockets of dust just hanging down from those fans. It really is unsightly. Can we start with that?
Somebody told me a story that there's a fan that sits, there's a season ticket holder who sits in the front, in the main part of the grandstand, who has been a season ticket holder for years. And every year, the first game of the season, he brings a little wrench because he knows by the end of the season, by the end of the year, one of the nuts starts getting loose.
You got to tidy that thing up.
He brings his own wrench once a year to tidy it up. I didn't hear that story directly, but I heard from somebody at the school. So it just gives you an idea of what we're working with.
It's nice to see that we have a season ticket holder that's been there that long, hasn't been poisoned by asbestos. It's good to know that, we've got some people that have seen through these lean times.
Yeah, but that also is evidence that how many times have they asked for assistance and there was no assistance? Like, the hell with this. I'm bringing my own wrench. Like,
how long?
5 times, 10 times? How many times did he have to ask for help?
How many times on a show that is fairly well listened to have we talked about the damn sitting water? It never goes anywhere. It's there right now. I guarantee it. If I got in my car after today's show and drove over to Hauser, it's just sitting water. There's all kinds of new life forms in there. You can do experiments. It's unbelievable. It's just all up and down those steps. It's unreal. By the way, somebody mentioned it in the chat, and I like that they did. And I think this would be a fine idea, along with many other improvements. If you have the foul poles just be giant sausages, that register sausages, just 2 giant sausages sitting. How great would be? Then you can help fund all of these changes we're looking forward to. You're like, oh, that's off the sausage. That would be great.
How much do you think it's off the sausage? How much do you think Ben would have to pay to get just sausages as foul poles?
I think that A, would be unique to Tallahassee, and B, I think it would be hilarious if you saw it heading towards the sausage. Think of the play-by-play call. Think of the joy.
I think also if the home team hits one off of the sausage, there has to be a sound that goes throughout the stadium, goes dong, and then people could just go, yes.
What if it was such an advanced sausage that it shook when you hit it? And it got the sausage that began to shake as it got hit by a ball. You'd spend the whole game hoping somebody ripped the ball off the sausage. You'd be like, please, let it today be the day. You know, sometimes you go to a game and you hope there's a no-hitter because you've never sat there for one. Like, today has to be the day somebody hits the sausage, please. I want to see the sausage shake.
Imagine if one player hits both dongs at the same, hits two dongs in the same game.
We would all just run out of the stadium. We'd all just run out of the stadium with our hands in the air. Like, this is the greatest day in baseball history. I don't care if we ever win a national title. I saw both sausage get donged.
Well, you remember that was Double Dong Friday. Double Dong.
Oh, we'd have the
2023. What a day it was. I remember where I was.
That'd be baby. We'd have shirts with dates. Double Dong Friday. I'll never forget. Virginia Tech was in town. Both teams were ranked. Little did we know as we entered Hauser and avoided the puddles that we would see Double Dong in the same night. Both dongs shaking as the ball rocks off the top. It'd be great. I think on that note, I don't know if you got to play 5 minutes worth of music. We should
We can get it together. That's
at this
fantastic.
point, it's a 3-segment hour for sure.
Yeah, there's a minute and a half left. So let me ask this: what's it going to take to get students in there with cheap beer, and they could throw beer to the sky when we hit home runs? That's got to be on the list. But that's got to be on the list. They've got to integrate the students into this thing.
So Ole Miss just won the national title, and if you go and watch, any of these games, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, a lot of the SEC venues, you'll see that kind of celebratory environment that you're talking about. And part of that is enticing students to games where they have cool seating in areas where they're allowed to bring in their coolers and they party and they have their cheap beer. I think there's something to that. I would love to see it. You need to make this appointment viewing for students. It would be awesome.
Well, I thought, so many of the super regionals, again, man, like we've talked about this a lot over the last few years, that college baseball, once they took the bats back down to where it's more like real baseball, and the scoring went down and the pace of play is so slow. And and then I think partly also because Florida State baseball has not been exciting, that there hasn't been as much fun about it. But I felt like these super regionals in a lot of those stadiums, Tennessee and some of those stadiums where, man, it was a circus in the stands. And I don't know that they can ever figure out a way to make that happen. But man, it would be cool to have that environment for college baseball season. And Florida State always had a great home environment. It's just been tempered, over the last several years.
Yeah. First things first, just get a lot better at playing baseball. And then I think you'll begin to woo some people back. And that's where, all jokes aside, we hope to see this thing go in a hurry. Hour number 2, headliner questions forthcoming. Stay with us. We'll get to them momentarily.
Physical stress on our bodies can take its toll as the years go by. Whether you're looking to get back into an old sport or just want to spend more time outdoors to explore all life has to offer in our beautiful city, the dedicated team at TOC is here for you every step of the way. You can trust TOC for all your orthopedic needs. And now, scheduling an appointment has never been easier. Just visit teamtoc.com and click schedule online. That's teamtoc.com.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit isf.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Sellers Tile does it better for business owners, contractors, designers, and homeowners. Better design ideas, better quality tile, carpet, and hardwood flooring, better mosaics, ceramic, and vinyl solutions. And Sellers makes it easier with their amazing showroom and first-class professionals. Maybe it's time to get Sellers working for you on Capitol Circle Northeast, just north of Mahan Drive, or online at sellerstile.com for better style, quality, and design. Go with Sellers in Tallahassee. Call 656-8453.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Former President Trump says House Democrats are wasting time with false claims that have fueled the investigation into the Capitol attack on January 6th.
As you have seen, the vile group of unhinged partisans and craven lunatics on the Unselect Committee are pushing a fake and fabricated narrative based on doctored video, lies, and testimony that is totally
Today, Assistant to Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Cassidy Hutchinson, is speaking at the last-minute hearing organized by the committee. It was her testimony that indicated that Meadows had been warned about the potential for violence on January 6th. Investigators with the National Transportation Safety Board are in Missouri trying to determine how an Amtrak train carrying more than 200 people slammed into a dump truck, killing 3 train passengers and the truck driver. The crossing in a rural area near Minden in western Missouri. That's about 84 miles northeast of Kansas City. Also at townhall.com, 7 states hosting primary elections today.
The nominating contests come on the heels of last week's monumental Supreme Court ruling eliminating the constitutional right to an abortion. Today's primaries could offer the first clues as to whether the political landscape has shifted. Abortion is a particularly relevant issue in Colorado, where GOP voters are deciding whether to nominate an abortion rights-supporting Republican in the state's U.S. Senate race.
Greg Cluxton with that report. Stocks are in the red. The Dow is down 276 points. More at townhall.com.
Charlie Dombeck here from Key City Capital. As a practicing CPA for nearly 30 years, I have found that 80% of your ability to grow your wealth is dependent upon 2 factors: taxes and investment performance. At Key City Capital, we improve investment performance by diversifying capital into off-market investment opportunities in passive rental real estate and alternatives like asset-backed lending. We recover dollars that clients unnecessarily pay in the form of income taxes, creating a lifetime annuity of savings. We are a sponsor of passive, affordable single and multifamily residential rental investments, which are located in Sunbelt landlord-friendly states. These investments are the top choices in a rising interest rate and inflationary environment. They represent a store of value, protecting your capital from market volatility. Learn how we at Key City Capital can help you ultimately grow your wealth rapidly. Connect with me at keycitycapital.com or give me a call at 817-912-1569.
Sellers Tile does it better for business owners, contractors, designers, and homeowners. Better design ideas, better quality tile, carpet, and hardwood flooring, better mosaics, ceramic, and vinyl solutions. And Sellers makes it easier with their amazing showroom and first-class professionals. Maybe it's time to get Sellers working for you on Capitol Circle Northeast, just north of Mahan Drive, or online at sellerstile.com for better style, quality, and design. Go with Sellers in Tallahassee. Call 656-8453.
Many orthodontists in Tallahassee can straighten a smile, but at Birch Orthodontics, they're dedicated to providing the finest care possible. The experienced and friendly staff is trained in all of the latest techniques. So whether you need standard treatment like braces or Invisalign, or you have a more complicated case requiring extra attention, Birch Orthodontics is here for you. Set up your free consultation today by visiting birchorthodontics.com, BURCH orthodontics.com, or call 850-877-1692. At Birch Orthodontics, they create beautiful smiles that last a lifetime.
It's time for Seminole Headlines, featuring Warchant.com's Jeff Cameron, managing editor Ira Schofel, and senior writer Corey Clark. Your weekly dose of all things FSU, pistols, and pies starts right now. Here's Jeff Cameron.
Hour number 2, headliner questions as we get underway here on Seminole Headlines. Glad that you could join us. I'm Jeff. There's Ira, and you see Tom Lang filling in for the vacationing Corey Clark. This hour, as always, brought to you by our dear friend and dear partner, Dr. Birch, Birch Orthodontics. We do appreciate Dr. Birch and all things Birch Orthodontics, her team, their professionalism, and obviously their expertise. Both my boys have gone through the process. Well, one has finished the process. The other is just underway with braces and doing quite well, I might add. And Ira, your girls have done the same. So we are something of an expert duo in talking about the expertise and excellence of Birch Orthodontics.
I think she should have like a reunion, like high school reunions. She have a Birch Orthodontics reunion and have people different classes. You know, if you got your braces in 2011, you got your braces in 20, and we because you'd see the same people when you're like when you go in there, you see a lot of the same people. We're a class. We can bring them all together and just everybody just smile and take a big picture. And Dr. Birch can brag about the job she and her staff have done. But birchorthodontics.com is the website. BURCH orthodontics.com. If you can't spell orthodontics, that's on you. I can't help you out. But they have payment plans, free consultations. They do all the latest work, not just braces. They do complex cases, older cases for people who are adults, really the whole gamut. And if you just reach out to them and tell them that Seminole Headlines sent you, because she knows that we're doing great work for her, but it doesn't hurt to hear it again.
It doesn't. And let's get to some questions. We got a bunch of them. I'm actually really excited. Ira, Twitter came through big time here.
I mean, look, man, it's like saying rain is wet.
Yeah.
We know.
Chris writes, I'm going to jump around here. I'm going to just jump around here. But Chris writes, is it too simplistic to observe that we spent an off season debating the efficacy of Mike Norvell, or at least seriously questioning it? And in all reality, that was a futile debate because everything truly hangs on whether 13 is healthy for 11 or 12 games. Well, I would first of all, let's define our terms here, Chris. I don't know that we debated this entire offseason so far about the efficacy of Mike Norvell. I think we all three think that Mike Norvell is a good football coach. Now, good football coaches get fired all the time. Good football coaches succeed in some places and fail in others. So we think he's a good football coach. But the jury is still out on whether or not he will end up being a long-term good football coach for Florida State. And a lot of that does center around recruiting. And if you don't win enough football games, you're not going to get enough good players to turn their attention towards your program and want to come here. So, yeah, it's true. Your other part of that is that Jordan Travis has to be healthy for them to win said games. I agree with that. But ultimately, that too becomes a bigger question about Mike Norvell's recruiting, right? And that they're in the situation they're in at quarterback right now is that if Jordan gets hurt, they probably aren't going to win enough games. And then we can get into that aspect of who he is as a coach too, which is that so far you'd say recruiting hasn't gone exceptionally well.
Yeah, I'd say it's not just recruiting. By extension, that would be a roster management issue. If Jordan gets hurt and you don't have a proper solution behind him, I think the safe money is that you're probably going to be without Jordan Travis for at least a few drives this season. You hope it's not multiple games, but that just, that has been the track record to this point. But we also thought, at least in the midst of what we were seeing in spring, that Tate Rodemaker is not the drop-off at quarterback like it was in the past season or past couple of years between starter and backup. Not to say that, they would flourish and thrive with Tate in a quarterback, but they wouldn't be completely lost. But that's also going to be something that's monitored very closely. It's a tough year to break it down more than the obvious, like Chris is asking via the questions. It's self-evident. Whatever happens this year is going to largely dictate what the future of Mike Norvell's career is at Florida State. The last couple of years there are built-in excuses, but this year there really aren't any. So, whether that's because Jordan Travis is healthy or not, that they don't succeed, doesn't really matter this year. That's in a way, that's the refreshing part about this season. There are no qualifiers. You either do or you don't.
Well, and I think, you look at what they've done this offseason was mostly about putting things in place to where if Jordan Travis plays as well as he can play, that maximizes your chances to win as many games as possible. So it was going out and getting 4 wide receivers, going out and getting 4 offensive linemen, going out and getting an elite pass rusher, and getting the pieces in place around him. So Chris's point is, well, does any of it matter if Jordan Travis gets hurt? Well, that's reality for most teams. Most teams, if you lose if Miami loses to that kid at quarterback, they're probably not going to be as good. If Clemson, you see what happened when they changed quarterbacks now to the guy they've got this past season, it was a totally different team. So that's I get it, and I know Jordan's got a track record of being banged up, but the reality is he's their guy. I think Mike Norvell, and we've talked about this at the time. I think they were in a tough situation because if you went out and tried to get somebody at a high level, then there's a good chance you lose Jordan Travis. And if you try to get somebody as just a competent backup, nobody's going to want to, or somebody you think could be a competent backup, but he might want to be a starting quarterback. He's not coming to Florida State because he knows you have Jordan Travis. So they're in a tough spot there. I hate the fact that if Jordan gets hurt, that there's going to be a huge segment of the fan base and the media probably who says, oh, this is why Mike Norvell ruined his chance at Florida State because he banked on Jordan Travis. But the reality is I don't know that they have many other choices. The hope is that he can stay healthy. And we'll mark this down. We'll mark this down. June 28th at 2:10 p.m. I think Jordan Travis's injury stuff is a little bit overblown. And I think he'll play. 12, 13 games, however many games it is. I don't think he's going to miss a lot of time this season. And so I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue. And if he's healthy, they can beat most of the teams on the schedule.
Yeah, my hope is that you're correct. And nobody roots for that kid to get hurt. Nobody wants to see him stay healthy more than certainly that coaching staff, his teammates who like him, love him, and all of us who just root for people to do well. I do worry about it a little bit though, and I think more than getting injured in games, Ira, he's got to be available. He's got to be available for practice in the build up to this season. You need to see him in the fall. He's got to be there.
I thought the spring was a great sign. I don't think he missed a minute in the spring.
It was a great sign. Completely agree. Let's hope that was a precursor of things to come, right? That he continues down that path, stays healthy. I still think beyond the health issues, I just want to see him take another step as a quarterback and be able to do a few more things more consistently. And if he does, then Florida State's going to have a good season. I really believe that. If he does, they will. To Tom's point about Rodemaker, previous to this season, the truth is, we all know this, Rodemaker has not really been a viable option. And when he's been given an opportunity, most people were aghast by what they saw. That said, we kind of don't know what would happen if he goes into a game this year because the spring game was no real indicator. He did look a lot better throughout spring practice. He makes certain throws that, frankly, certain throws better than Jordan Travis. There's a chance, let's just put it that way. There's a chance that if he had to play, he might go in and play well. If that offensive line holds up and they are a little bit better at wide receiver, he might go in and play well. I'm not saying he would. I have a better feeling that he might than I did a year ago. I can tell you that. So that's to your point.
Well, one thing I'd say, again, when you break down what Jordan Travis did last year, he was able to produce and lead the offense to production when they couldn't run block, they couldn't pass block, and they didn't have receivers that could win 50-50 balls, let alone separate with any consistency. And that's because he has a gift that Tate Rodemaker does not. But if you've improved to where you can reasonably block, you have a couple of pass-catching targets that can win a one-on-one or create separation, and you've got a potential dynamic player in Trey Benson in the backfield, now the ingredients for Tate to succeed are at least present. And so if he doesn't succeed in that circumstance, that's a lot more fair of a test than last year. I don't know how many quarterbacks that are not mobile, like really mobile, could succeed given what was going on offensively last year for this group. It's amazing they produced as many points as they did.
And then, not to be Pollyanna, but with this defense, I think it's going to be a really solid defense. It should be, one of the top 40-ish defenses in the country, 30 or 40. So you'd like to think you're not going to get blown out. And so even if you don't have great quarterback play, that the running game, you can manage enough offensively to keep yourself in games. So I don't think the season's over if Jordan Travis misses a half or a week. And to as you're saying, Tate Rodemaker looks much more capable than we thought before, and you got Duffy too. So it's not like the season's over if something happened to him, but the point is valid.
Big season for Adam Fuller, because I think most of us don't. We talk a lot about Norvell. It's a big season for Adam Fuller because I think a lot of people in the fan base don't know what to make of Adam Fuller. He was heading down the path of being a complete failure and needing to be replaced. When all of a sudden, basically the second half of the Louisville game on, you saw a real significant change from this defense. They were more physical. They were more consistent. Guys lined up correctly, knew where they were. You didn't see blatant busts. They played with a physicality they weren't playing with before. Part of that was because they were thinking and not playing. Are they going to be what we saw in the second half of the season to start the season? Because if that's the case, then all of a sudden you feel pretty good about the trajectory of the defense and Adam Fuller moving forward. There are just so many question marks. It's why this season is so exciting to talk about. And it's why I get pumped up talking about how close we are to practices getting started and for us to go off to the ACC kickoff next month, which is basically, it starts at the end of this week. So, there's reason to get excited there. Next question is, hey, gentlemen, big fan of the show. This is from Atman. He writes, do you feel that Atkins is doing the most with the offensive line and Odell with the defensive line? Is that enough to bring this roster back to elite status, even with the whiffs the rest of the coach seem to be having? Okay, from a recruiting standpoint, he's getting into which guys are carrying their weight and which ones aren't. To be sure, Atkins is, and then some. And I think Odell has too. I do think there are question marks at a lot of other places with this staff that remain to be seen. In some cases, I think many of us have already made up our mind about a couple of guys. But, no, they're going to need other guys to recruit better. Those two are doing a great job. To answer your question, this roster will not be elite if other guys don't start carrying their weight in recruiting.
I mean, I think they definitely recruited well defensive back over the last couple of years. They've signed a lot of really good defensive backs, and they're in it for some others in this class. I think when you look at running back, obviously David Johnson's done a really good job. I think they've done a good job in the transfer portal at different positions. Randy Shannon has had some success there, bringing in Tatum Bethune. I think, look, man, this is not a great recruiting staff top to bottom. It just isn't. I don't think that was the approach Mike Norvell went with. But Atkins is definitely killing it. There's no question. I think there's a little bit of, I don't know. They had such a huge need at offensive line. So they needed to pour numbers into offensive line. And Alex Atkins is a great recruiter, and he's been able to fill those numbers. But that's not to say that they can't fill other positions, but that has been the primary need. They needed to get 6 offensive linemen in that last class, and they need to add a few more because of how bad that position's been. But typically, you wouldn't have one position where you devote that many people to, and I think that's kind of distorting the picture a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, one thing I'd say is, don't close the book on John Papuchis, the defensive ends coach, just yet. Now, if you want to criticize the special teams coach, I'm already in front of you in line. So you'll see my back there. But when it comes to defensive ends and development, look, there's a chance this year that Derek McClendon could be a plus player on that defensive line. And if Jarrett Verse develops, he's got to get up to speed at this level. But if he develops and he plays anything close to what he appears to be physically and athletically, then you've got some – not stopgaps, probably a little bit better than stopgaps from dropping off from Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas to your replacements. So I think, it's almost implied when you only bring up Alex Atkins and Odell Higgins, you're not liking the job that Papuchis has done. I don't think we need to be so in ink about what he is as a defensive ends coach just yet. But there is no doubt when you see in the defensive interior guys like Daniel Lyons and Bishop Thomas on the horizon, I mean, wow, they're going to replenish. They're already 4 or 5 deep and really good at defensive tackle this year without counting those true freshmen. This is going to be a special group in the interior for some time to come on defense.
Yeah, and also winning games changes what you can be as a staff recruiting. If you win some damn games, all of a sudden you all look a lot smarter when kids start finding interest in Florida State all of a sudden that typically don't right now.
And so much of it is cyclical because, like, you're giving Tom's giving him credit, Odell credit, rightfully so, about the defensive tackles they brought in that last class because I think it's a really impressive group. But
he was under pressure.
There have been years where people said Odell wasn't recruiting anymore. So, and a part of that is a byproduct of what Jeff just said. If you're not winning, it's hard to recruit. And so it's hard to judge. It might be hard to judge some of these guys. This is a football staff that's won 8 games in 2 seasons at Florida State. So that's not the easiest challenge to go out and out-recruit some of the better teams in the Southeast. So I think they've done what they could do. The transfer portal has been a big part. I'd like to see what happens with this class if they have success this season. If they win 8-9 games, I have a feeling that they're going to recruit at a higher level than people think.
On this same subject, and we might as well include this one in here so we can kind of wrap up the theme. Rob writes, if the mountain is ultimately too tall for Norvell to climb, do you think Atkins would or should get a look to be the next head coach here at Florida State?
Man, I'll go first if you want on that one because I'm seeing that a lot. Even we were on Sunday Smash at 7, and that question was waiting. Is if they win 8 or 9 games, is that too much for Alex Atkins to not be given a top-flight offer to be a head coach somewhere else? It's like everybody's already protecting Alex Atkins before this season ever plays out. I'd just say pump the brakes. Let's see this whole thing play out before we start talking about who the next head coach is at Florida State. Now, if September sucks again, it's time to field that question. It 100% is time to field that question. But, man, can we just enjoy the drama of this season that's to come? Because there's going to be drama, good or bad. Let's embrace that before we start trying to fill Mike Norvell's shoes. I mean, seriously.
I mean, look, man, I love Alex Atkins. I think he's done a great job. I think it was a great hire by Mike Norvell. If they struggle again this season, you're not hiring from within the staff, I don't think. I mean, you're going to go get – it would be a really – I think it would be a really tough sell to a lot of fans. Now, the people who are, like, paying attention to recruiting and living and dying with every moment and know all the – behind the scenes, the stuff that they hear and read, listen to every podcast and, read every article and message board post, those people may feel like, oh, yeah, Alex Atkins could be our guy. But I just think, I mean, how many times do you ever see a coaching staff get fired after 3 or 4 years and then, oh, okay, well, we're going to give the job to the offensive line coach from that staff? I mean, that would be a first that I can remember anytime lately.
Yeah, Kevin Steele tries to do that everywhere he goes, is to be the guy that gets promoted from within if it's possible. That's why he's always on the road with a new team. It doesn't work out for him.
He's in Miami right now, right? So
yeah,
we'll see how it works out for them.
He's planning his et tu brute moment as we speak. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays, and kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pockets Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry books to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186. Whitten Glass has been taking care of families since 1945.
Experienced, reliable professionals who offer only the best, like Whitten's top-of-the-line bath enclosures. Eye-catching storefronts are a specialty at Wooden Glass, and they provide precise installation.
Wooden Glass, Tallahassee's first family in glass. Online at woodenglass.com. Call 850-222-5781.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love. And you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
This is Andy Cohen. When I was a law enforcement officer, I devoted my life to a career of service and protection. Who's protecting you? Give me a call. 850-671-FARM. That's 671-FARM. Helping you is what we do best.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
If you buy too much, you waste money. If you come up short, you waste time. And if you don't have the right metal, you waste time and money. You got to spend wisely. MetalSupermarkets.com is your online source for metal with the deepest metal inventory. Just enter your dimensions and we'll cut the metal to your exact spec and deliver it to your home, business, or job site. MetalSupermarkets.com. Any metal cut to size and ready fast is just a few clicks away. MetalSupermarkets.com.
DQ presents a burger and blizzard meal matchup. Today's matchup is Bryce Harper's new DQ meal with flamethrower signature stacked burger, fries, and a cookie dough blizzard versus Tim Anderson's new DQ meal with a bacon 2-cheese deluxe signature stacked burger, fries, and an Oreo blizzard. Who picks the winner? That's you. Visit DQ.com to cast your vote for which meal should be the official meal of MLB. But first, try them both today. DQ. Happy tastes good.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Rolling on with headliner questions. Welcome back. Appreciate you joining us. We have this question next. First of all, I'm being chastised for being late to the COVID party, apparently. And then he asks, I sense a cautious confidence by Nole Nation for the 2022 season in both football, but also men's basketball. How does the panel feel about the future of both? Oh, okay. Well, we talk every day about where we're at with football, and that's a balancing act. I think most of us are more positive about the upcoming season than we have been the last couple of years. And then basketball, let's go to that one because I pretty much wrote them off a while back. And I still have my growing concerns with the loss of such great personnel from the coaching side of things. I love Ham, and I want nothing more for him to go out a winner here, and he has done amazing things with this program. But admittedly, there's been an uptick in confidence and enthusiasm on my end over the last month or so with the development of the couple of players that they brought in and the way they're being viewed right now in recruiting. So maybe all is not lost. Maybe this was a temporary blip on the radar. Ira, do you share that sentiment? Or are you?
Well, I was never quite as concerned as you and Corey and Tom. Because I understand how it looked. They had a really rough season comparatively to the way they had been playing the last few years, and it wasn't all the injuries. They weren't playing. They didn't look like they were going to be a great basketball team really at any point last season, even if they had still stayed healthy. At least to me, I never saw the end of the season being like this great run. It was kind of a transition year. They had brought in a bunch of new faces, and it was all coming together. And then I coupled that with that last recruiting cycle that is freshmen right now, that group that's coming in right now, where they didn't have as many superstar guys. They missed on some of the 5-star guys that they were in the running for like 4 or 5 elite players and came in second or third. And so it felt like, okay, well, maybe they're losing some steam there. And as you said, see why Charlton Young left the staff to go to Missouri with Dennis Gates, another former assistant coach. And I could see why it was kind of building that way. But I think you look at the talent they actually still have in the program is still pretty high level. I mean, Matthew Cleveland and some of those guys, they have a high level of talent in the program. Then to have these recent recruiting wins, to me, I think should allay some of those concerns. Baba Miller, one of the top international prospects, a 6'10", 6'11", a guy that can play on the perimeter. And then the recruit that they just got a commitment from this past week. I mean, that's a big deal. They feel like they've kind of recharged things. And, I haven't been out there to watch this practice this summer, but a mutual friend of ours has been. And I heard, man, they look great. I mean, I've heard that these summer practices have been great. Matthew Cleveland apparently has really embraced. He came back for a purpose. He was a guy that some people thought might be a one and done. He came back for the season. And from what I'm hearing, everything has been exactly what you want to see out of a guy who does that and is really working on his jump shot and all those things. And now that team, might be a little bit more back to what we expected before last season.
Yeah, I'd say I'm looking for the sandpaper element. You're right, Ira. The recruiting has whatever concerns I had, they're mostly put away. They're mostly put to bed. This has been a nice little run these last 6 weeks or so for the basketball program to show that they can compete with the big dogs still, even if the assistants are gone, and win those battles. I was concerned, too, just because of the way Leonard was describing the era of the NIL and how difficult that is. And clearly he was struggling with what it is they're going to have to do philosophically. Maybe it's transfer portal and dip into that more often and bring in more veteran players. But whatever the case, they've got a good roster this year. They should have a really good one next year as well. It's just who is going to be the sandpaper on the team, who's going to be the player that's like a Terrence Mann or a Trent Forrest, not necessarily in production, but you just got to have that mentality. And so I'm looking forward to seeing who those guys are going to be.
I also think that last year, I think Leonard made a couple of mistakes. I mean, the comments he made about the transfer portal, I think he was hoping for more from a few of those veteran players that had been in the program for 5 years, that they was going to get more out of them. And I think he missed on that. And he instead maybe could have let a couple of those guys graduate or seek other opportunities because they had certainly been in the program long enough, and then do what Virginia Tech did, or go out and get some of these top level transfers. And he did get Caleb Mills before that season, but I think he regrets not maybe going a little bit harder in the transfer portal, and I think we'll see them do that. And he certainly got some big ones for this season.
Yeah, well, I'm rooting for it to happen. I still have some overriding concern for Florida State basketball in general in the NIL era. But that said, obviously this has, to use your word, Ira, helped allay the fears that it was about to fall off a cliff. I don't think it's about to fall off a cliff. So I feel much better about that as well. Sean writes, with the amount of uptick in the interest in our new coach, are you surprised at how many people wanted Mike Martin Jr. gone? Seems like there was a majority of this fan base that wanted him gone. Well, this is going to be an interesting answer. I'm interested to hear from both of you guys. I'll give you my 2 cents on this to start. I've known Mike Martin Jr. for a very long time, and I considered him a friend, considered him somebody that I could call, off the record. Let's put it that way. He's one of the few guys that I have that relationship with that I also cover. And that makes for an interesting relationship. I think I've tried to be fair when he's bad. I've been honest when they've been bad. When they're good, I point that out too. But I also know that Mike can be really difficult to deal with on an interpersonal level. And I don't mean with me. I just hear that about his interactions with his players and certain people around the baseball program. And I have a suspicion that the relationship I knew between me and him, Mike Martin Jr., that is, and the relationship that maybe he had with a lot of other people was very, very different. And so I'm not surprised to hear a lot of people say that they were ready to move on. Mike isn't great at letting people help Mike. And I think that perhaps he rubbed some people the wrong way, probably more than maybe he realized. It's just my opinion. I think he probably didn't realize that the level of red acidness that he carried around with him on a daily basis was not appreciated. by a lot of people. And I think if you start to lose games and you're not chummy with the right people, it can be over in a hurry. And I think that helped expedite the process. Just my opinion. Ira?
Real quick, Tom can talk next, and I'll follow up. But Florida State just got a commitment from one of the visitors from this weekend, a linebacker, Ward, who committed. He was here for the weekend, just committed. So Tom can help you with that while I do something else real quick on my phone.
Yeah, gotcha. So let's exit Ira.
Take me off the screen. Get me off the screen. Go back to the JCS.
You don't want that right now. There's technical stuff in the background. So
okay, I'll stay.
It's like Schefter on trade deadline.
Yeah, you just look down at your phone and type in your thing.
I'm here.
Start a linebacker. Put it on Warchant.
You guys talk.
That's DeMarco Ward, who is committed to Florida State. Hey, a linebacker commit. That's kind of cool. So where were we, Jeff? What were you teeing up Ira for?
No, I was asking the question about my opinion with Mike
about Mike Martin Jr. Did people want him to go? I do have something to say on this. Give me just a minute. So
So there was noise in the system. I mean, early on in this season, that was the alarming thing. Like it wasn't that they started to struggle and then you heard things, because typically when losing happens, that's when maybe the petty comes out in people that are interested in the program, be it the players, coworkers, or money people, or whatever it is. That's usually when you hear the complaints. They started out pretty well, and still there was some noise in the system. And I'm thinking, man, that's interesting, because in the preseason interview you did with me, Jeff, he talked about how guys were reluctant to buy into using all fields as the approach at the plate. But then once he broke them down, they figured it out and they saw, oh man, there's actually some good reason for this type of approach. And then you watch the approach in the games, and it didn't really match with what Meade had said in the preseason. And that's when my head started to spin a little bit, thinking, oh, man, so is he really connected to the way that his lineup is going to be approaching at bats? And then you see later in the year, there are some comments that, interspersed throughout the season, the last of which was, we're coming back, essentially, is what he said after the Miami series win here in town. We're going to be coming back and playing in front of these great fans again. And they, I know they lost 2 extra inning games in a row, but I mean, then they got absolutely smashed by North Carolina in games 2 or 3 up in Chapel Hill that week. So I don't know that there was he'd had the pulse of the team, not even from the beginning. And that's where I think some of this may have fallen apart a little bit. And that's where people got weary of it.
Yeah, Ira, before you answer here, I'll address Glenn here. Glenn, you don't have to care whether or not a person is a horse's ass behind the scenes. So what? Yeah, no, you don't have to care about that. Here's the problem. If the team's not playing well and you begin to lose games and they all care deeply that you're a horse's ass, then it's going to be a job issue for you. You're going to have a hard time. This is what people do with guys. Listen, Nick Saban can be an impossibly difficult human being, but he wins and wins big. And the second that he doesn't, those that have been carrying the knives will pounce. It doesn't take long for people to circle and close quickly if you're a jerk to everybody you deal with on a daily basis. So you may not care, but the people who make decisions and the players who play for those guys do, especially if things aren't working well.
Well, and the thing that I was struck back to, I went back to, because all these things don't matter if you're having a lot of success.
If you're winning.
They weren't having a lot of success. And that was a conversation that a friend of mine had with Jimbo Fisher early on in his tenure, that Jimbo felt like if everybody loved him, like Coach Bowden, that's one thing. But if he's 12-0 or 0-12, the comment he made is, if I'm 12-0, it won't matter. And if I'm 0-12, it won't matter. They're still going to fire me if I'm 0-12. And if I'm 12-0, it doesn't really do me any good. But my point was always, okay, what if you're 8-4? Or what if you're 7-5? Right. And I think that's where Meade wound up. And look, I mean, the reality is because there was so much anti-Martin venom because of the Bobby Bowden and Jeff Bowden situation. I mean, that's something Mike Martin Jr. has had to fight for 15 years. That nepotism issue has been something people have complained about for over a decade. So when he got the head coaching job, to me, the only way he was going to have success is if he just killed it in the first year or two to kind of get people to quiet down. But he didn't. They were middling. Then now to the point you guys are talking about is he didn't have a ton of people supporting him because of some of those relationships. That's what I think the problem was. If he, again, if he had worked more maybe on that side of it, it would have gotten him another year. But the reality is, I mean, they weren't playing well enough for that to not be a problem.
Yeah, when you got players who look disinterested and you're ninth in the ACC while being preseason picked to finish first, and people aren't exactly friendly towards you and you them, yeah, man. He also found himself in a real tight spot because the Link Jarrett situation became pressing. Clemson was going to make a run at Link Jarrett. You can't have a team in your conference going after one of your guys whom you'd like to bring in if things don't go well and have all that stuff going on in the locker room here and not decide to expedite the process. We keep moving here. If the mountain is all – I already asked that question. Millwheel writes, who shows up first on campus, Destin Hill or Joe Mauer? Good old – that's a nice old Joe Mauer reference. Wow. What could have been if Joe Mauer had played quarterback at Florida State? But alas, Destin Hill, are we done now?
It's not done. We'll see. I mean, none of us have ever said we would put money on it happening. So, we'll see. If he shows up, great. If he doesn't, it's not going to change. It's not like, nobody has expected him to be here since he signed, since he didn't show up last summer. If he shows up, it's gravy. If he doesn't,
why did this get legs, though? What happened this week that gave this legs? I've seen more things on my timeline about Destin Hill this week than the previous two.
People are bored. I don't know what to tell you.
So nothing happened.
Well, there was a thought that if he was going to come, he would have come right at this past, like last week in the academic calendar. They brought in a couple of other players at that break. So there was feelings that he might, and he didn't. So now it's brought up again.
All right, let's go this route. You won't have to fight. Oh, okay. This is our friend Mary saying we can ask all the Twitter questions we want. You won't have to fight that Facebook battle anymore, Ira. You do realize the next episode of Seminole Headlines will be in July. It's a countdown to football. Thank you, Mary. Yes, it is. That's right. Yes. The next Seminole Headlines is indeed in July.
Next week, we're after the holiday. Can't wait. Go ahead. I feel like there's more questions we probably should get to.
No, we're flying around here, buddy. I'm getting to them. I know this isn't Gator Headlines, but with all the SEC money and talent-rich environment, why does Florida still suck? Seems like they would have had a Clemson run by now. They've been better off than we've been, but they had an unlikable coach.
I mean, the reality is money doesn't solve all your problems. And we've talked about this before. Texas is the best example. But the concern is all the talk you're hearing about the SEC money really hasn't poured into the level it's about to pour in. And so, when a lot of those projections, right now the gap is real, but it's what could be happening. And, they reworked that CBS deal or they changed it and for the game of the week. And I mean, you're talking about the numbers are about to get crazy in the next few years.
In the interim, though, it is laughable and it is pitiful. So continue to feel pity in Gainesville. There you go.
Rob writes, are we certain that Link is not Mike Norvell with a balding wig? Has anyone seen both in the same place? Is Norvell trying to become FSU's head coach in all aspects?
Did you feel like they were similar in their approach?
No, not really. No. Mike took the approach of a preacher during his press conference, an over-the-top evangelist. There was some good in there, but there was some bad. He was a rah-rah guy in his approach. Yeah.
I mean,
they look much like each other.
It was more like a passion from raising your voice, that kind of passion. Link's was more of like an intense,
stern.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Link's approach was more, I know what I'm about, so I'm just going to kind of shoot from the hip a little bit more. It looked to me like Norvell tried to memorize almost every word that he wanted to say. But, I mean, listen, you just got to be who you are when you're in that setting. And Link's was gripping. Within 60 seconds, I was like, oh, man, this feels like that teacher that you just don't mess with, or that substitute teacher that you just don't mess with in high school. You're like, this guy, he don't play. Like, look at that hair. That also helps. You're like, man, I'm not going to mess with that guy. If he's got that going on up there, I'm not messing with that dude.
Bobby writes, what year will Link take us back to the College World Series, and what year will we finally win it all? Predicting when you're going to win it all is awfully difficult. I mention it every time this question gets asked. The one seed in the nation each of the last 3 years has not won the national championship. And 2 of those 3 years, I don't think they even made it out to Omaha. I know this year they certainly didn't. So you have the number 1 national seed in Tennessee this year with by far. It's not even close. They lead the country in every major statistic offensively, and they had the lowest team ERA of any team in the country. And they hosted, and they lost.
Right.
To an unranked Notre Dame team, if you will, at least national top 8 seed. So there you go. That's how hard it is. That's why you can't really predict when a team's going to win a national championship. In terms of getting back to the College World Series, I wouldn't be surprised if Florida State went to the College World Series next year.
23? I was going to say 24, and I thought that would be aggressive. I thought
wouldn't be surprised at all. I think Florida State has talent. They weren't getting the most out of their talent. It depends on a few things that have to fall their way from a pitching standpoint. But, man, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't be shocking at all if Florida State went. I'm not saying they will, but it wouldn't be shocking.
I think that the order of operations out of the bullpen would have to get better, and it's probably going to get a hell of a lot better. They're going to play better defense, and then maybe those registers dong polls will just start shaking when they send them off to Omaha as a top 8 national seed.
Maybe they won't strike out 700 times a game. Maybe they'll pick up the baseball. Yeah, little things like that go a long way in winning.
I thought when I asked Mike Alford when he was watching Notre Dame play for the last 2 or 3 weeks, waiting for their moment to begin negotiations, what was the biggest takeaway? And he just talked about how hard they competed in every aspect, and then also how they communicated on the field. In the way the Link communicated with the players and his assistant coaches. And I mean, I just think that idea of taking the coach's mentality and how hard they played, I just think, man, this for whatever reason, the connection just didn't seem to be there. To Tom's point earlier about having the feel for his team or the pulse of his team, there were so many games where it felt like some of the guys on this team were either going through the motions or not understanding the situation. Like, what do we need in this situation? What's my play here, either offensively or defensively? Link's teams seem to have that. They seem to play with that savvy and that intelligence and some competitiveness that, can go a long way. To your point, Jeff. I mean, it can take a team that maybe looked average to a much higher level.
Yeah, and again, we got to figure out the starting pitching for the upcoming season. But I do think that they've got enough talent there and a lot of burgeoning talent that if you get a lot more consistent play out of, it wouldn't be surprising to see that. Remember, they were preseason picked to win the conference this past year. So, I mean, it's not like this place is devoid of talent. Knox writes, "Good morning, gents. Let's try this question again. Who gets fired first, Mike Norvell or Willie Taggart?" Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Willie at FAU? Oh, yeah. 100% Willie at FAU, I think.
I would think. I think they're struggling, but again, Mike hasn't had a winning season. So but Mike has a little bit more leeway, I would think.
Yeah, short of going 3-9 this year, I think Mike gets another season. I'll go with Willie. We'll make it a clean sweep.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with the 3-9. I think that 6-6 or less is going to be tough for Mike. But But no, I just think FAU's been terrible. I mean, his first year didn't look terrible because they had so many players that Lane had left behind, but it's been trending down quickly, I think.
Yeah, Ira, you hit on something that I think is worth us exploring really quick before we move forward and take a quick break, come back with the last questions, and that is, you think anything 6 or 6 or lower, he's gone?
I think 6-6. It's going to be there's going to be a figuring out what to do. I don't know that I'm not saying he would be gone at 6-6, but I think at 6-6, I think there's going to be a lot of conversations at the highest levels about, okay, what can we keep doing this or not? 5-7. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how he survives that.
Yeah, I think if he goes 5-7, you can fire him.
Well, no matter what happens this year, there's going to be all right.
So, well, I mean, look, the reality is, Tom, you said it earlier, there's not a lot of excuses anymore. Plus, you have 3 or 4 games you should win. I mean, they're going to win. So now you just can't lose all of the other 8 or 7 of the other 8. Yeah. I know it's a tougher schedule, and Jeff's made that point abundantly clear, and I agree that they could be a better team this year and not have a great record because this is a tough schedule with all those veteran quarterbacks. But at the same time, I mean, you can't be in year 3, go from 3 wins to 5 wins to 5 wins again. I just think that that's going to be a tough set. In this day and age, to me, that sounds like it would be a tough situation.
I just haven't heard it put so definitively by you two in like a 15-second sequence. I was shook there. That all right, there you go.
Well,
So,
I've all
tires. So that just tells me, it gives me a little bit of hope as a fan that if I'm on the chat here or whatever, that all right, if things go bad, there's going to be a new guy. It's not going to be that dead man walking thing that Jeff talks about.
Well, okay, so that we don't make the decision though, Tom. So here's the thing. Like,
I'm just saying, in our conversations, it hasn't been so definitively put before. So
Right.
that was remarkable.
Yeah, I've said anything below 7 wins, he might as well be fired because he's a dead man walking at that point. But you're right. We're going out there and just saying that's it. That's it. You're done. Quick break so we come back on the other side and we get through 2 or 3 more questions. We will have gone through these Twitter questions. Appreciate you guys. Stay with us. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
A difficult time for communities in Gadsden County that are seeing an increase in violent crimes. In the last 7 days, Gadsden County has seen 10 shootings. Sheriff Young said this is coming from a lot of youth, ages 15 to 25. There's been an uptick in burglaries, car thefts, car burglaries, and home invasions. On Monday, Sheriff Young and police chiefs from Quincy, Midway, Gretna, and Chattahoochee announced their Summer of Safety initiative from now until September. Part of that program means officers from those cities will help address crime issues in the county, no matter what agency they work for. TPD says a man was injured in the stabbing at a gas station on Crawfordville Road Sunday night. Officers learned about the stabbing at Marathon Gas around 9:35 p.m. when the victim arrived at a hospital in the area. The man had a non-life-threatening stab wound. It is unclear at this point whether the victim and suspect know each other. The victim became uncooperative as the investigation continued. No arrests have been made in connection to the stabbing. This is Rachel Linnea with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Mainly cloudy skies expected this afternoon with a chance for scattered storms. Highs level off around 92. Southeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance for scattered thunderstorms again tonight. Lows dip down to about 74. Mainly cloudy skies. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun tomorrow. Scattered thunderstorms likely. High temperatures reach up to 90. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 94.
Physical stress on our bodies can take its toll as the years go by. Whether you're looking to get back into an old sport or just want to spend more time outdoors to explore all life has to offer in our beautiful city, the dedicated team at TOC is here for you every step of the way. You can trust TOC for all your orthopedic needs. And now, scheduling an appointment has never been easier. Just visit teamtoc.com and click schedule online. That's teamtoc.com.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Here's what you missed on the Greg Tish Show.
There's a TikTok that's going viral because of a butter softening method. They are putting the Vermont Creamery butter in the waistband of her pants. Give it 5 minutes. You can go and measure out your ingredients, and then your butter is ready to go. You cannot do this in Florida. No. Because your pants will be full of butter in 2 minutes. Somebody try it. Post on TikTok.
Unless it says juicy across the back.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3.
Seminole Headlines is brought to you by Register Sausage, serving the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. To find a store near you or to buy directly from Registers, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com.
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Let's keep it rolling here. Get straight to the questions, shall we? And the first is, do you guys know, well, I'm not going to actually answer this one on the air. It's a question about how we arrived at the new play-by-play announcer. And I will say there's a lot more to it than just selecting, not to disparage the new guy. I've not met him. I'm sure he'll do a great job. but there was a lot more to it than just selecting the next guy in line for the job. Let's just put it that way. There's other aspects. Florida State is kind of modernizing, I think, that position of play-by-play announcer. I can try to answer it that way, and that the person that's doing it has to do a hell of a lot more work than just calling games.
Yeah, and that's going to be the trend nationally. Like that's where it's going. It's not, the idea of just having somebody who's just a voice for radio is probably a bygone era.
Yeah, it's a shame. Luckily, I got in just under the radar because that's all I do, guys. I don't do a damn thing else. Here we go. A couple of weeks ago, I asked a similar question, but want to revisit given the bevy of encouraging moves we've now seen from Mike Alford. What year? Oh, baseball question again about the team returning to Omaha. And what year does the football team return to the college football playoff? And he wants to know, by the way, you and me, Tom, is hashtag a-hole still a thing? Yes, it is. You guys can use hashtag a-hole anytime you want, but that's on the Jeff Cameron show. As far as this show goes and the answer to your question, back to the college football playoff, Florida State is a ways away from competing to get to the college football playoff. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but Florida State is a ways away from making the college football playoff. That is the stark reality, in my opinion. I don't think we're that close. So if I were projecting that, I would tell you 5 years, 6 years minimum.
I don't know about that. Just because I would say this. Look, man, Florida State was awful in 2009. They were no better. They're no better now. They're no better in 2009 than they are now. So if you can get it going, I think it could turn around pretty quickly, especially with the transfer portal. So I think you could see a scenario where they've got players now. There's probably on a roster of 85 scholarship players, there's probably, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 guys that could be on that kind of team. But if you can fill it around, or bring around them those kinds of players and an elite quarterback, I think you can get there in less than 5 or 6 years. But it does. There's not a clear path to get there in the next 2 years by any stretch.
The schedule is too difficult if it's a 4-team playoff to do it anytime soon, just because of the out-of-conference that they've scheduled. But if it expands, it could happen all the sooner. Let's just hope that eventually happens and there's not dysfunction among the Power Five as there is everywhere.
I wish this show were longer. Guys, we're not anywhere close. We're not anywhere close.
Move on.
I'm telling you now, it's not close. Fun exercise next time.
Let me ask you this. In 2009, at the end of 2009, were you thinking, yeah, man, within 4 years, we're going to be playing we're going to win a national title?
What was the record in 2009?
7-6,
maybe. But they were awful, man. They were all, and there were not a lot of players on that team that you saw in 2013.
Yeah, I just remember we were coming out of the lost decade, and Coach Bowden had really obviously fallen off a cliff, and we weren't recruiting. And so I was just hoping with the level of recruiting that Jimbo was about to do that we would see a real quick change. And that level of recruiting has not started at Florida State.
Guess what? If he didn't get Jameis Winston, it wasn't happening.
But
anyway,
he did.
Go ahead.
He did. And if Mike Norvell doesn't get somebody to
but
play
he could. But he could.
He's not close right now, and if you're going to bring him in, he's still got to get in here and be in the system for a year or two, so you start to see the play improve.
So that's not 6 years; that could be 4 years or 3.
I said 5 or 6 years, 5 years. I'm going to say it's certainly more than the 2 you just laid out.
No, I said it won't be in the next 2. I said it could be in the middle.
Do you think by year 3 we're going to the college football playoff?
I'm saying it's possible 3 or 4. I'm not saying because you said 5 or 6 at least, and I don't think it's that. I don't think it has to be that far away.
We need longer time to debate this.
Why do I feel like I'm watching my parents fight and I'm 6 years old again? What's going on here?
Yeah, we need Corey here so we can be picking on him.
Well, Corey, so he'll say 2 years and then turn around and say something else crazy like it's the beginning of a 10 straight year run to the college football playoff. If that's the argument he's on. If it's the other side of it, then, it's usually not. It's a fun discussion to have next time we do the show. Let's see if we can get another one in here.
Here's one thing. There's 30 seconds left. Florida State will make the college football playoff again. There you go. They're going to do it again, though. They're going to do it again.
It's a fun. Hey, listen, it's an open discussion. There's some give and take there. They will make the college football playoff again someday. Good work, Ira. Good work, Tom.
To be clear, I did not say in the next 2 years. I just said it could be sooner than 5 or 6. Just want to be clear.
I disagree, but that's okay. That's all right. We can disagree. It's all right. I hope you're right, and I hope
you do.
Good work, Matthew. Be well, everybody. Take care. Thanks for listening.
Come back, Corey.
What?